Hello, Eagles Nation. Vincent Foch here, and welcome to a free agency Eagles chat, where free agency so far for the Birds has been an absolute roller coaster ride filled with many different mixed emotions, especially from the beginning, losing guys like Nakobe Dean, which sent pretty much every single Eagles fan into a deep state of depression, something similar to what New York Jets fans go through every single season. But for Eagles fans, feeling soon a rise to a more positive standpoint once they acquired guys like Tariq Woolen and Hollywood Brown. So when I mean it's been a roller coaster of a ride, I mean it. And especially if you've been following Eagles free agency closely, yes, it's definitely been one heck of a ride. That I can tell you. And we're about to cover what's been going on with the Birds coming up in a matter of moments, only on Eagles Chat. But before we do so, make sure you like and subscribe to the Eagles Chat YouTube channel, as well as following us on Instagram at Chat Eagles, where you can find daily updates on your Birds. You can also find their Instagram in the description of this Eagles Chat video. But now let's get right into it. And I want to start off this Eagles Chat with a big time question. That is, what has been the theme of this Eagles free agency so far? And I'm sorry if I sound like that English teacher where back in high school you wanted to absolutely deck with a chair or a desk. But seriously, what has been the main topic of this Eagles free agency so far? And for me, it really has to be them filling in big time gaps in the team with a good talent for a cheap price. And we all knew the Eagles cap space coming into this offseason. It was sitting just over $12 million. And at the time, the Eagles sat at 21st in the NFL in cap space, just outside of the bottom 10. So we knew the Eagles weren't exactly going to be buyers. They weren't exactly going to be going out trying to grab all this talent, going absolutely berserk as Howie Roseman usually does. We knew they were probably going to sit back at first. And that, of course, came with the cost of losing guys like Jaelan Phillips, right, Nakobe Dean, as I stated at the beginning of this Eagles chat, and as well with Reed Blankenship. Now, when looking at it, I'm extremely happy with how Howie Roseman has been exactly playing out this whole entire free agency. We look at what Jaelan Phillips signed with the Carolina Panthers for. I'm sure most of you saw it by now. 4 years, $120 million, $80 million guaranteed, and $30 million per year. Yes, absolutely nuts. Carolina, you're crazy. And I understand Jaelan Phillips last year, within 8 games for the Birds, he had 2 sacks, 4 tackles for a loss, and 7 QB hits. I understand that. But still, I ain't paying him no $120 million. You're absolutely nuts. And as well, looking at Nakobe Dean, he signed with the Raiders, $36 million, $20 million guaranteed. You weren't exactly probably going to fight with the Raiders, as they had one of the best cap spaces in the NFL, if not the best, if I can remember correctly, as it makes sense. A bad team has a lot of cap space, or a lot of cap money to spend, so it's understandable. But still, kind of hard to lose Nakobe Dean, a big piece of the defense, and as well a big piece on why the Eagles won the Super Bowl. It was a big factor back there in the defensive area, that I can tell you, in the linebacker section. But then we also have losing guys like Reed Blankenship, a 3-year deal worth up to $24.75 million. This is probably something where you could have re-signed Blankenship, but the main reason I think Howie Roseman did not go for Blankenship was, I'm not going to say he was a bad player by any means. He made some good open field tackles, some good textbook tackles, and some good stops throughout the season. But as well, there were too many costly mistakes, bad coverage, blown coverage. Blankenship, again, he's a great safety. I don't want to put any negative words on his name, but still, some of the performances that we saw from him, I really think that Howie Roseman saying, okay, I'm not going to go all in on him, and kind of just said, okay, Houston gave him this deal. We'll sit back a little bit here. Now, why am I so happy that Howie Roseman did not chase these guys? Because I've been hearing from many, many different people throughout these past couple of weeks saying that this offseason for the Birds has been awful. They've been doing awful in free agency. I've been hearing everything. I've been hearing countless talking points on this from people on, whether it's on sports talk shows or just people talking trash in the comment section. I mean, again, it's an Instagram comment section. I don't know what I should be expecting. Smart people know, probably. I don't know. But this is something where people were saying, oh, awful, 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 awful. Well, here's something I want to bring up to you people that are saying that this was an awful free agency for the Birds, okay? We look at the one-year deals that the Eagles have signed so far, and specifically, I'll name 2, one on the defense and one on the offense. We saw Tariq Woolen, right? Former Super Bowl champion, right? Was with the Seattle Seahawks on the squad this past season. A guy who was one heck of a pickup for a one-year deal worth about $12 million on that deal. One heck of a pickup to add to your squad. We knew the cornerback situation the Eagles were in last year. You had a Dory Jackson, Kelee Ringo, who, I mean, I don't even want to insult middle schoolers. The guy, I don't even know how he ended up on the NFL roster. The guy he probably can't even play rec football, whatever you want to call it. I don't know, but that was a disgrace. Kelee Ringo literally running away from a guy he was supposed to be covering this season. I don't know if his controller disconnected, whatever you want to say. Don't know how he was an NFL player. You had Jacorian Bennett, who was, penalty sensation back there, and Adoree Jackson, who was improving. But still, your cornerback area was a mess. Bringing in someone like Tyreek Woolen on a one-year deal with the cap space you had is absolutely incredible. And as well, Hollywood Brown, average of $6.5 million. You had an absence with Jahan Dotson leaving at the wide receiver 3 position. So you brought in right there, Hollywood Brown. And as well, speaking of wide receivers, the Eagles just brought in Elijah Moore. We're going to talk about that coming up in a matter of moments. But still, these are big-time pickups with the cap space that you had. And as well, for those exact same people that said that there's been an awful offseason for the Birds so far, I want to bring something else up to you. Let's go into the money factor for the Birds. Like I stated, coming into this Eagles chat, right? The Eagles, coming into the offseason, were at just over $12 million on their cap space, set at 21st in the NFL in terms of cap space, right? Where do they sit now? They currently sit at the 7th best position in the league with $33 million, right? 7th best. The amount of money that Howie Roseman was able to retain and get back onto this squad once again to use into future seasons is absolutely incredible. I'm not going to lie on that one once again, but for the people saying that this is an awful offseason for the Birds, Howie Roseman was able to still bring in good talents for a cheap price. It's been the main theme of this offseason so far for the Birds. Filling gaps with a cheap price, but still with a good talent and as well retaining cap. $12 million, just over $12 million. Now sitting at close to $34 million, actually, when looking at the numbers. $33,731,208 was the exact number reported a couple days ago, right? But still, that's 7th best in the league right now, okay? I'm not saying that this is a bad offseason by any means. You were able to retain a lot of money. And if you want, folks, well, you could go all in on players and be exactly like the Miami Dolphins. What's going on with the Miami Dolphins? They have one of the worst dead cap in NFL history right now, sitting close to just under $180 million. The Miami Dolphins are literally paying players more to not play for them than paying players to play for them. So if you want, sure, you can go all in on players. You'll just end up like the Miami Dolphins and be screwed for the next seasons and be trapped. And I said this coming into Eagles free agency, right? I said this obviously before a lot of these deals were made at the beginning when we lost Reed Blankenship, Nakobe Dean, and Jalen Phillips all under 5 hours. I said this, okay, if we have a down season this upcoming year, right, I would much rather have a down season than a down decade. And yes, you want to ask a team about a down decade, just go up to any New York Jets fan, Cleveland Browns fan, Detroit Lions, I mean, whatever it may be. Now, with the Jets and the Browns, it's more like a down century. But still, ask them about that. Ask them what going all in on a player gets you. It doesn't get you anywhere. It gets you a positive vibe going into the season, and all of a sudden, when something explodes out from underneath of you with that specific player, you are screwed once again. So Howie Roseman, I think, overall, with the way he has handled it, with the money and being able to retain cap, this has been something incredibly managed. This has been something incredibly done, right? Going from number 21 ranked with cap space to number 7. Yes, I think that says all it needs to say right there. And as well, reconstructing contracts. We saw with Landon Dickerson. He was able to reconstruct his contract and save the Eagles $3 million over the next 2 seasons with a new deal that now expires for Dickerson in 2027 instead of 2028. But still, looking at this, that's the type of stuff that's going to get you money back. Also, after cornerback Jaire Alexander. Anyone here remember Jaire Alexander when they acquired him from the Baltimore Ravens, right? He was traded to the Eagles, was thought to be a good addition, was going to be great. Everyone was excited about it, including me. And then 10 days later, the damn guy retires. So this is all stuff that kind of comes into play. But where am I going with this whole Jaire Alexander thing? Well, following that November trade, obviously that he retired, didn't play a single snap for the Eagles, right? Well, the Eagles ended up getting paid back $889,000 and as well received salary cap credit, league sources ended up telling ESPN. So this was what came out, right? And after playing 7 seasons with the Packers and as well being then traded to the Baltimore Ravens and then coming to the Eagles and then retiring after that, yes, at least the Eagles were able to get some money back right there. And I can even go to another one in Sidney Brown, right? Being able to get rid of guys that don't exactly have a future here, but yet still being able to get something positive in return. That's also been a big topic of this free agency. Looking at what they got, right? Originally, the Eagles were sitting at a 4th pick at 122 and a 6th round pick at the 215 position. Well, instead of that, the Eagles moved up after this trade with Sidney Brown. They moved up to 4th round pick, 114 position, and as well with keeping that 6th round pick, but moving up instead of at 215 to 197 in the 6th round. So at least they were able to get something positive. And I think you knew with Sidney Brown, there wasn't exactly a future. Vic Fangio voiced that multiple different times, right? We saw Sidney Brown make some plays on the special teams unit, and as well was able to make some plays here and there on safety. And I have to say, I was proven wrong. I thought Sidney Brown was going to be something special for the Birds. Ended up being not, as the guy was so inconsistent, it wasn't even funny. But this is something where you look at Sidney Brown in 3 seasons for the Eagles. He had 42 regular season games played, only started 9 of them, and it really was just something that was just not going to work out at the end of the day. But still, Howie Roseman noticing that and being able to make the move when necessary. So that has been the main thing right here. The Eagles not making the stupid move on paying all this money for a player and going all in, especially with your cap space of just over $12 million coming into this free agency. They went from 21st in the league in cap space to 7th in the league in cap space at $33 million. Again, I know I sound like a broken record, but this is important, and I don't think it is talked about enough when looking at stuff like this, 100%. So definitely something to note, and money has been a big factor of this free agency, that I can definitely tell you. But now moving on to what exactly has been going on in terms of the offense. We're going to first start off with offensive moves, and then we'll go into defensive moves for the Eagles and free agency. And these are the big-time moves that have happened so far for the Birds. And we'll first start off with at the top with a QB, right? The Eagles were able to bring in Andy Dalton, right? This guy has been bouncing around like crazy. He was the former starter for the Cincinnati Bengals back before Joe Burrow. Obviously, once the Bengals drafted Joe Burrow in the first round, right, 2019, he was out of the question. They moved on from Andy Dalton, and he really hasn't been a factor too much since then. He's been able to put up some good numbers here and there, but he's really been all over the place. But looking back at Dalton's history, right, in Cincinnati, he threw for 31,594 yards, right, 210 touchdowns, 120 interceptions, and was able to as well have 133 starts in his tenure with Cincinnati. But once they released him in 2020, after they selected, like I stated, with Joe Burrow, he then went to the Cowboys, then he went to the Bears, then he went to the Saints, and then he went to the Panthers, and then he was looking like he was going to do something with Carolina, but then that kind of backfired once again, right? And now they have their man right now in Bryce Young, right? So that's kind of understandable right there. But he hasn't really been too much of a factor in Carolina. He's been there since 2023, but the guy's kind of been bouncing all over the place. But this brings up a big question, and of course, when this happened, I saw all different types of people talking about this. Oh, my Lord, Jalen Hurts, this is his replacement. I heard all of it, right? Went through it, heard everything. But it's going to be interesting to see the backup QB race right now. Will Tanner McKee still be around by the time the season starts? Who knows? There's a lot of trade talks going on with McKee right now. There are some teams interested in him, as he's been shown to be somewhat of a reliable backup quarterback when needed. Okay, he's been said that he's a better backup than Kenny Pickett. That I can tell you. He's a better backup than Gardner Minshew. That I can tell you as well. So he's definitely on some teams' radar to be a possible backup. So who knows if Pickett will, or look at me, Pickett, if McKee will still be around by the time that we start this 2026 NFL season. That's still in question. But bringing in a guy like Andy Dalton, hey, this guy was once great. He showed some consistency here and there. He had some okay goes with the New Orleans Saints and as well with the Carolina Panthers. But again, it hasn't really been much, and there hasn't really necessarily been much there since. So still, an interesting pickup right there. Again, this preseason is going to be very interesting seeing the fight for each position. And now going to running back. Who did the Birds bring in there? Well, we already had a very deep running back room, that I can tell you, with great depth, right? We know Will Shipley's back there, Tank Bigsby, another one, right? So we had A.J. Dillon, but now he's gone. I mean, he wasn't really played much at all last year anyway. Not really a big loss, right? But Dameon Pierce being brought in right here, signing a 1-year contract. Again, a 1-year deal. We were just talking about themes of the Eagles free agency. Well, that's kind of been a big topic and a big talking point of Eagles free agency. 1-year deals. There's a whole lot of them, and pretty much every single one is a 1-year deal. But Dameon Pierce, right, coming out originally was a 4th round pick, coming at 107 overall out of Florida in 2022. And he was with the Houston Texans for a good amount of time. And this is a guy where he was over 1,100 in all-purpose yards as a rookie, including 939 rushing yards, but saw his numbers decrease since then. So this has been a guy that Houston put a lot of trust in, but he kind of has pulled back quite a lot. And this is going to be something where how can he fit in with the Sean Mannion offensive style? This is going to be interesting to see how it develops. And as well, this Eagles running back room. There we go. If I can speak English, that would be nice. But this Eagles running back room, that is something that is going to be quite interesting. It was already strong, but what's going to occur now? Will Shipley, I mean, there's a lot of people questioning his future with the Birds, as he's been used a lot on special teams, especially this past season. So there's been a lot of questions going on with Will Shipley. Is he going to be around come the opening game of the 2026 season? That remains to be unseen, right? But still, this is going to be quite interesting to witness on how how Dameon Pierce makes an impact. And again, preseason is going to be definitely something to watch. But the Eagles as well. Here's one that a lot of people were so happy to talk about, including me right here. Yes, you already know, with Marquise Brown, aka Hollywood Brown, right? So this is going to be quite interesting to see. And this is obviously a guy that was brought in because of the absence of Jahan Dotson, right? Dotson no longer an Eagle now with the Atlanta Falcons. I mean, to be specific, what was Dotson going to get? If he stayed with the Eagles once again, what was he going to get? 12 touches, 12 catches? Oh my Lord, man, what so much? Yeah. There wasn't probably going to be much from Jahan Dotson, but signing a one-year deal worth up to $6.5 million for Hollywood Brown, definitely something pretty interesting to see right here. But the speed is a key thing with Hollywood Brown, right? When you look at it, he had a pro day of 4.27 in his speed, and with the Chiefs last year, through 16 games, he had 49 catches for 587 yards and 5 touchdowns, and he only had one 1,000-yard season. That was back in 2021, back when he was a Baltimore Raven. But still, I mean, this is going to be interesting to see. This guy is good inside and outside, and is very, very explosive when off the line, and as well as a big-time deep threat. And this is something where I can argue he was something similar to, maybe you could argue, Quez Watkins back in his prime. But as well, I can even argue, and I will argue, DeSean Jackson. When was the last time the Eagles had a big-time deep threat? And I mean a deep threat in terms of being able to catch the ball, and he is gone. What was DeSean Jackson known for? When he would get out there and you would throw the ball, he would catch it, whether it be a dime or whatnot from Michael Vick or whatever it may be. When Jackson got the ball, that was it. It didn't matter what defensive back was in the area, what safety, what cornerback, whatever, you name it, didn't matter. They weren't able to stop him. That was the main thing. So having a deep threat like that is huge, especially we know Jalen Hurts. He loves the deep ball. We saw it many times this past year, as it seemed to be forced with Kevin Patullo's Pee Wee style offense. But still, this is big. This is extremely big. Something the Eagles can use to get down the field in a very, very quick time frame. And, when looking at it again, some people may argue, well, the Eagles do have some deep threats. Devontae Smith is good with deep threat. A.J. Brown can be good at the deep threat. Well, yeah, I'm talking about yards after catch. That is what I mean by a good deep threat. And right now with Hollywood Brown, man, it's going to be extremely interesting to watch. That I can 100% tell you. But now in other news, and something that occurred fairly recent, actually, literally right before I started recording this Eagles chat, the Eagles picked up Elijah Moore from the Buffalo Bills and signed him to yet, surprise, surprise, another one-year deal. And this is something where, again, adding young experience and a big-time playmaker to their roster, a guy who has kind of calmed down. With the Bills, he wasn't really noticeable this past season, but still, he has had some big-time shining moments earlier on in his career, right? When we look at back when he was with the Browns, when he was with the Jets. Now, unfortunately, yes, the poor guy was with the Jets and the Browns, so you can already picture how that went, as he probably, lost a lot of his firepower. Who wouldn't lose their firepower playing for, rec football franchises? But still, kind of interesting right there. But Moore did indeed have back-to-back years having over 500 receiving yards. That is something that can be noted. But still, a lot of people asking with this, and I saw it right when it happened, what's the point of signing Elijah Moore? I don't understand. What's the point? And then, of course, this brings up more people saying, is A.J. Brown going to be done here? What the heck's going to happen with that? Yeah, I'm not even going to talk about that here on the Eagles chat. It's been discussed enough. It's been ranted about enough. I don't need to get into that. That's something for another time, right? But still, a lot of people asking, what's the point of this? What's the point of that? Well, again, it's another talent that the Eagles are kind of doing a test monkey with. They're kind of doing a test run with it. This is something where if he sticks, he sticks. And that's literally, again, we were talking about themes of this free agency. We were talking about topics of this free agency. What's been the main topic? Well, yes, again, I can't say it enough. Signing or being able to fill in gaps with a good talent for a cheap price. Is this a guy who's kind of declined a little bit in recent years? Absolutely. But he showed signs of being consistent earlier on in his career, and the Eagles want to see if they can get these guys back to that point, being guys like Elijah Moore, and as well another one being in Dameon Pierce, right? This Hollywood Brown, another one, right? These are guys that they want to see. Okay, we understand recent years there's been a little bit of a dip, but can we get them back to that huge performing level once again? Can this be the year where we get them rocking and rolling once again? The reason all these one-year deals are being signed is this is a test year to see what these guys are exactly all about and to see if they're a keep or a let go, right? This is exactly what we're going to be going over right here. And really, with signing Elijah Moore right here, that's pretty much what that is. And now moving on down the line, so we want to speed this up a little bit, right? The Eagles being able to bring in tight end palooza right now. 4 tight end signings right here. Obviously, the big one being bringing Dallas Goedert back, as Dallas Goedert was pretty much holding off and declining the bag from other teams just to stay with the Eagles as he re-signed for a one-year deal as well. But still, great to have Dallas Goedert back once again. Incredible to see, especially as Dallas Goedert broke the Eagles franchise record in tight end touchdowns in a single season. So definitely something to note right there. But still, this is kind of the first season from Dallas Goedert in the Wild this past season that occurred where he was not getting injured. He actually was pretty consistent. And even though he didn't have a ton of yards per game, the Eagles were utilizing him in the red zone. That explained why he had the most touchdowns scored in a single season by a tight end in Eagles franchise history, was because he was being able to be found in the end zone and in the red zone. They were able to find him in key moments. So seeing Goedert come back, definitely something incredible to see. And I have to say, they proved me wrong. I thought Goedert was not going to come back. I didn't think there was a chance that Goedert was going to return to the Birds, but yet here he is. Great to see. The Eagles also were able to get in Grant Calcaterra once again to keep him as tight end depth, as well with Johnny Mundit. This is a big one. A lot of people may not think it's a big one, but they are overlooking the fact that he is known for his good blocking. That's something the Eagles lacked a little bit last year, right? They had Stoll right there. They also had Calcaterra back there. Both of those guys, they kind of lacked a little bit in the blocking area. That I can say. There were some definitely blown blocking last year from those two guys, but having Johnny Mundit right there, he's known for it. He's known for his strength, as well with Stone Smart, another guy for another tight end, right? These are guys that are known and can really stand up and plant their feet in the ground and just go. So these are good pickups at the end of the day. They may not seem like much, but still, this is something that can help the depth in every single way possible. That I can 100% tell you. But now moving into the defense. What has exactly been going on with the defense so far this free agency? And first, starting off with obviously the big one, Jordan Davis re-signing with the Birds, the big-time defensive tackle, signing a 3-year, $78 million contract extension that includes $65 million guaranteed. Glad to see Jordan Davis come back once again, making incredible plays. The guy has really gotten into shape. We saw this past offseason, he has lost quite a lot of weight. To be specific, he lost around 30 pounds coming into last year's training camp. So this is a guy who has not declined one bit and definitely has earned it. They gave him the bag. He deserves the bag. Hopefully he can continue performing at a big level. But I can definitely tell you one thing, a big reason on why that Eagles defensive line was so strong, and another big reason on why the Eagles ranked as one of the best defenses in the NFL last year. They ended up finishing just outside of the top 10, but still, I mean, hey, when you have an offense that is on the field for less than a minute in game clock time, yeah, your stamina is going to run out. So I can't really blame the defense too much there when they're on the field pretty much the entire game, and they're really the only people that can make plays on the Eagles squad. So yeah, that's a whole nother thing, but still incredible. A huge reason why the Eagles defense was so successful was because of Jordan Davis. The Eagles also picked up linebacker Arnold Ebiketie. So this is another big time one right here, as he was signed, 1-year deal, $7.3 million. But this is a guy who really, former Falcons free agent, right, is something where when you look at it at the end of the day, this is a guy who had 8 sacks in his past 2 seasons and someone who is extremely, extremely aggressive, a guy that is not scared whatsoever to really get down and dirty and as well fills the gaps incredibly well. When the Eagles stack the box, I can already see it now with having Zach Bond. You can have Ebiketie there as well, really putting in those A and B gaps, filling them in well. That is something that Kobe Dean did incredibly well, was being able to fill in those A and B gaps. To be specific, it was more of the B gap, right? But still, great to see an incredible pickup overall for the Eagles right there. Again, another thing that may not seem like much, but at the end of the day, this is something that can really boost them in the long run, and a pickup that I think is going to work well with them down the line. But now moving into the cornerback section, and this has been a section of the Eagles that needed a lot of work. We all know what happened last year. I said it at the beginning of this Eagles chat, right? The Adoree Jackson, Kelee Ringo, Jacorian Bennett mess that occurred week after week after week. Now, don't get me wrong. I'll give Adoree Jackson his credit where it is due. The guy improved as the season moved on, but still, you want some consistency in that position, right? Quinyon Mitchell to the one side. You also have Cooper DeJean in there as well, but still, you want some good consistency at that cornerback position. And this is where we have guys like Jonathan Jones, who comes in, a longtime veteran right there. Tariq Woolen, another one. These are two guys that are something that's going to be very interesting. And another reason why I say watching this preseason is going to be quite outstanding to watch. That I can tell you, it's going to be one heck of a battle to watch these guys. But first, let's get into some of the specifics on Jonathan Jones, right? So Jones, sitting 5'9", 185 pounds, right, is a 10-year NFL veteran. Now, this is a guy who did go undrafted and went with the New England Patriots and was with the New England Patriots for the majority of his career, ever since 2016, right? But majority of his career, first 9 seasons. He was able to put up some good numbers for New England. He tallied 58 tackles with 6 passes defended, and as well with 2 forced fumbles. Now, he started at least 14 games for 3 consecutive seasons, right? So this is something where he can and has shown his consistency, and that's a factor that I know a lot of Eagles fans want in the cornerback room, especially what we had last year and the disaster that was on the other side of Quinyon Mitchell. But when looking at it, he's had a career high of 16 games played in 2022 and posted career highlights in tackles with 68, career high in tackles, 68, right? Interceptions of 4, and as well with passes defended of 11. So this is something where, hey, he had times where he slowed down, but he also has had times where he's picked up. 2022, a big reason on that. Now, in 2025, Jones started 12 games, right? Logging 41 tackles, 5 passes defended, and 0 interceptions. So this is something where he also allowed a career high of 13.4 yards per catch in back-to-back seasons, and we'll see exactly what develops of this. Wasn't that bad for Washington. Again, Washington was injury sensation this past season, so that's a whole nother thing to talk about for a different time. But still, some good depth right here, right? And as well, a veteran that you're bringing in to help teach these younger kids, and as well to give some leadership in the locker room. That's definitely going to be something to look for 100%. And he will be competing with Kelee Ringo, Jacorian Bennett, Michael Carter III, right? Or excuse me, Michael Carter II. Emory Thomas will be there, right? Mac McWilliams. I mean, these are all these different guys that will be in that position that will be getting, will have competing areas, right? And then as well, right, Tariq Woolen. This has been the big pickup, and this is the guy that's expected to start in that cornerback 2 position, right? Well, the expected 3 are Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, Tariq Woolen. And when looking at Woolen, he has allowed a 61.1 rating and coverage over his career of 4 seasons. Now, he came into the NFL in 2022, and opposing QBs have got this, right here. Get this, 53.1% of their passes have been completed. 53.1%. Not bad at all. This guy is also an extremely tall one, 6'4", and as well has some good speed. He ran a 4.26, right, in a 40-yard dash back in the 2022 NFL draft combine. So this is someone that has that great speed. And knowing Vic Fangio's style of defense with that passive-aggressive style, right, speed is definitely necessary. And having a guy that is tall, that's probably why, and probably a big reason why he has a huge number of passes deflected, as well with a 53.1% completion rate allowed for the opposition's quarterback, is because of that height and because QBs just misjudge the throw. And as well, he's 6'4". This guy is going to be something that is able to pick off these passes and these low passes and these kind of low little flubbers as well. So definitely something to look at right there. But he also produced the second highest lockdown percentage, 65%, in the league this past season. Second best right there, 65%. So not a bad pickup whatsoever, especially as what they were able to pay for him, a 1-year deal, $12 million. This is something incredibly well for the Birds, and something that is going to be one heck of a growing state for them especially as he was competing with former Eagle Josh Jobe back in Seattle. Now, he did not start in the playoffs, but he finished the season with 41 tackles, including 33 solo tackles and 1 interception, as he also recorded 4 solo tackles as the Seahawks defeated the Pats, right, 29-13 in this previous Super Bowl 60. So something pretty interesting to state. And when I say he didn't really play too much in the postseason and not including the Super Bowl, I got to be more specific on that one right there. But still, this guy is something quite interesting to watch. He is another big time trash talker, so something similar to Brandon Graham, right? This guy will get other players' skin, and sometimes he gets a little bit over the top with getting on their players' skin, right? He can end up drawing some bad penalties against the Eagles, so that's the only thing I'm a little concerned about right there. But still, will be pretty interesting to see him on the squad and see what he's able to kind of develop in this Eagles secondary, that I can tell you. But now moving on to Marcus Epps. The Eagles were able to bring back Epps, right? And this is really all it was a depth signing. Again, a 1-year deal. They needed somebody back at the safety position, right, after losing, again, as said before, Reed Blankenship. The Eagles also brought in another safety in JT Gray, who is mostly known for his special teams, as he is, as in previous seasons, known as a special teams ace. So the Eagles right now are kind of bringing in depth in that safety position. Again, Blankenship leaving. I'm not surprised that Epps came back. He was originally Eagle, then he left the Birds. Now he's back with the Eagles again. He was back with them last season, and now he is re-signed with them this season. So not a surprise to see Epps back in the green and black once again, but yet here we are. And then obviously for the final one, not necessarily defense, but I put him on here anyway, of the punter of Brandon Mann, re-signing on a 4-year deal with the Birds. He's been a great punter for the Eagles. He's been able to get the ball down there, especially this past season when the Eagles offense would absolutely choke on their own 25 or 20-yard line. Brandon Mann would have to get the ball down the field for the defense to not be wedged up in their own side of the field. So yes, great to see Mann back on the squad once again. That I can definitely tell you 100%. So we'll see exactly what comes from that 100%. So that's really been the free agency talk that's been going on so far, and a lot of the free agency moves. Now, Grant, again, free agency is not over. It won't be over for quite some time, but still, these are a lot of the main signings. I don't think there's going to be anything too much bigger that's going to occur, again, unless something happens with A.J. Brown, right? A lot of people still as well have something going on with Jalen Carter. Will he finally get re-signed? Remember, 2026 is when things expire for Carter, so are they going to finagle something going on with Jalen coming back? That's going to be another big question. Nothing's happened with him with opposing teams, so I'm assuming Howie Roseman hopefully is looking to get something done with Jalen Carter to have him back on the D-line once again. As we know, Jordan Davis is a big factor there, but so is Jalen Carter. That I can 100% tell you. But again, moving on to the theme once again, when looking at this Eagles free agency for my closing statements, you have to say, filling in gaps with a good talent for a cheap price. What the Eagles were able to do with their cap space, we already discussed this at the beginning, but still, in my opinion, I'm going to grade this free agency for the Birds as a B. I think it's something where they did what they had to do. They've been doing what they've had to do, and with the provided cap space they had coming into this offseason of just over $12 million, sitting at 21 in the league, just outside of the bottom 10 in the NFL in cap space, they did what they needed, and as well were able to gain a heck of a lot of cap space back once again, sitting at just over 20 million back in cap. Not bad at all. So yeah, I'm pretty happy on what I've been seeing from Howie Roseman, and all I got to say is I can't wait to see what is going to happen in the draft, as the Eagles have around 9 draft picks to utilize. So it's going to be quite interesting, folks, that I can tell you, but I have no hesitation to say that the Eagles are going to be back come the 2026 NFL season. But that's been the Free Agency Eagles chat. Hope you enjoyed it, and leave a comment down below on what your opinion is on the Eagles free agency so far, and if there's any moves that you would have backed out of, if there's any moves that you would have made earlier, or just pretty much any opinion that you have on the Eagles so far, I'd be happy to hear it. Again, comments are always open down below. I'd be happy to read what you guys think. That's all for me, and as always, you already know, go Birds! Have a good one, folks, and until draft time, we'll keep it real. Have a good one.